Extreme Collectibles here, and I just had a pondering, if you will. Some of the times when I do a review, I take the photos beforehand, so I know a little bit about what I'm gonna. I know a little bit about what I'm gonna. I know a little bit about what I'm gonna talk about. Is that right? They don't know that we know they know we know. I know a little bit about what I'm gonna say during the review when I take the photos first. And sometimes I forget to say it in the review, what I specifically took a photo of. And sometimes, like now, I do the review first, and so then I know what to look for on pictures later. It just really depends on how things flow. That's just a side note. Extra little glimpse into my world you probably didn't want or need. But before we do that, or after, God, I am just out of it. Well, good. I feel bad for you. What's going to come next? Let's do it. Superman. Extreme Collectibles here with custom quarter scale Christopher Reeve Superman. This is a custom piece. So when we talk about customs here, I bring it up every once in a while. It means that it's a private commission, and traditionally means that it's not licensed. So DC did not sign off on this. And yeah, so we'll leave it at that. But I don't usually talk about where they come from. This actually, I believe, was commissioned by a painter I've used before that's done some of my really cool paint pieces. And it's actually sculpted by the same guy who did Phase 2. So, and Phase 3, Phase 4. So if you've seen that, the Wolverine vs. Wendigo. So really great sculptor. They made 40 of them and priced at 800 euros plus shipping. And I have this because I'm a big Superman fan. Well, and who isn't? But I have Prime One's Superman 52. I have Sideshow's newest Superman premium format. And then Prime One Superman, I keep saying Hush 1/3, which there's a review on, so check that out. And then I have Superman Cyborg coming and a bunch of Superman villains. Oh, and then I have a quarter scale black Superman. Not skin black, but suit black. It's okay to say skin black. That's not un-PC, at least in my opinion. So let's stop talking about that. And I got him because I don't have any Christopher Reeve Supermans, and I am a huge Christopher Reeve Superman fan, partly because it was a big part of my childhood. I even have, let me show you a picture actually, so a collage with Christopher Reeve, this authenticated photograph. He signed this photo of him, and then a kryptonite necklace signed by Gene Hackman. The picture's not the best because there's a reflection. So, big Christopher Reeve fan, because when originally those movies came out, there are just so many exciting moments that are never recreated. Like, I watch them and I still get excited. Not like that. Well, sometimes like that. I mean, it's Christopher Reeve in a spandex suit. But, for example, when he first becomes a man in Superman 1, and he is about to leave his palace, and then the music starts, or the first time he changes into Superman and saves the helicopter, or the absolute best scene of Superman 2, which I'm going to talk about that in a second, Superman 1 and Superman 2, is at the end when he crushes Zod's hand, and they play the music by probably the best composer of all time, who has the coolest name of all time. And if you guys didn't know, a little bit of trivia, most people who like Christopher Reeve know this. Superman 1 and 2, Richard Donner originally shot them as one movie, but it was just too damn long. That's why at the beginning of Superman 1, they have Zod and his generals and stuff, or not, he's the general, Zod and Ursula and, is it the big guy, I can't remember his name. It doesn't matter. I'm just ranting and I'm not even talking about it. They have them in court on Krypton, because that was actually all one movie. That's why they get put in the Phantom Zone on the first movie, then they're replayed on the second. It originally was cut to be one movie. But, so this is, in my opinion, one of the best Christopher Reeve Superman statues out there. I know there's another one from a long time ago that was a private commission. That's like an ES, I think, of like 10. That probably goes for 4,000 or 5,000, which I would love to have, but I don't think I would pay that. So here, it's cool. It's Christopher Reeve at its finest. It encompasses a lot of that movie, and it's a cool pose, which we're going to talk about. And let's just get dimensions before we do that. So he is a tall son of a bitch because he is flying. So he's just under 30 inches. Depth, 18. And width, approximately 12. So with that, now let's talk about the concept and design. And I gotta stop talking about let's, because you don't say shit unless you type it. You type shit. I'm swearing too much. This is Christopher Reeve Superman, Fortress of Solitude, North Pole, leaving. So I think there's a few different ways to look at this concept and design. First of all, you could look at it like this is a small piece of the Fortress of Solitude and he's leaving, and it's just not showing the rest, which would be built up all around him. Or this is a miniature version of the Fortress of Solitude to kind of symbolically encompass that. And one interesting thing, when I was putting this together, they have the green crystal that, saved his life in Superman 2, and where he rebuilt everything with. That's a spoiler if you haven't seen it. We were taking this out of the box, and my 7-year-old goes, "Ooh, kryptonite." And it just hit me, and somebody who might have more Christopher Reeve, DC Superman knowledge might be able to speak to that. This wasn't kryptonite, it was a green crystal, or maybe I'm wrong, but it was kryptonite in the remake of Superman Returns. So I'm kind of confused by that. But anyway, there's a green crystal here. Obviously, it's probably not kryptonite, or maybe he's flying away from it. So I guess the concept and design can be whatever you want. This is going to be a long review. And design is actually, there's a lot of different pieces. It slides in just right, tiny bit loose, but sometimes with manufacturing on a custom piece. He has a pretty big peg that slid right in. So pieces, you have the base, you have 2 pieces of the Fortress of Solitude, the cape, the arms attach, and then there's 2 portraits. I forgot to talk about it at the beginning, so let's look at them now. One is more of a serious stoic portrait, and then the other one is kind of a goofy smile. And this goofy smile, when I first saw the pictures, I thought this was stupid and I would never display it. But it reminds me of a lot of the expressions he had as Clark Kent during the movies. So, I don't know. I think they're both applicable. But, so, he's flying out of the Fortress of Solitude, taking off, ready to go save Lois Lane. I never thought Margot Kidder was hot, personally. So, if anyone else did, to each his own. But, so it's your essential Christopher Reeve Superman statue. That's what I really like about the concept and the design. And hopefully there's no leaning issues over time. The engineering, there was a little bit more to it because it's slanted and the piece is decently heavy. The base had to be pretty heavy to hold the offset. So I hope there's no issues in the future. But otherwise, good concept, good design. Let's talk about the paint and sculpt here. To be honest with you, there's some things I was hoping for more. But there's some things that are just blowing my mind too. So, which typically is good things with a statue. Let's start with the base. First of all, I want to look at the snow part here. One really cool thing on the back here, actually signed by the sculptor, kind of give away who it is. And then, but the rest of the snow, I think it's a miss. And that's because I'm comparing it to snow on Prime 1 Freeze or ARP Clash of Powers. So unfortunately, I think there's a little bit of a miss. I also noticed there's a little bit of gap where mine is. I don't know if it was a broken piece or something like that, but there's a gap where the ice crystals meet the snow. And then the blue part, not the transparent blue, the snow could have used more texture and just a different kind of paint, I guess. The blue part is interesting to me. I know it was intentional. It's not what I think of when I think of the Fortress of Solitude. I love the crystals though. I think they hit it spot on. It looks just like the Fortress of Solitude. I think that that blue color and the transparent resin material it might be made out of is perfect. I wish they would have done this all over the base. I think it would have been much better. One thing I don't like is you see one of the magnets through it over here, right, as you can see in the picture. And then the addition of that green crystal, really cool. I like it, and there's a few different holes you can put it in. That's what she said. So I'm not really quite sure where it's supposed to go, or of course it could just lay there if you wanted it to. She said that too. And then lastly, they have a kind of an optional Superman symbol on the front that looks good. I like the addition of that. Unfortunately, there's nothing to fill the keyhole if you take it out, so if you don't like it, you kind of have to keep it. So really, the base is a few of the places I found lacking. Superman, I really like. And some of the things we're going to look at with him, it's like, that's not a very good costume. This is what his costume was. So it's very accurate to the movies, at least to my knowledge. Maybe I'll have to watch it again when I have time. So let's start at Superman. First, his boots. It's true. It's this shinier color and fantastic sculpt on the boots. It shows the material, like I said, the paint really makes that material to this kind of blue color, and then there's some stitching and tons of folds like there was in the movie, both on the back of the boots and the front of the boots. Really, really good. And then his cape. I like his cape. I like the flow of it. It really emboldens if that's a word. It really embellishes him flying, taking off, how it's bunched up together. The color may be a little off than what was in the movie, and the texture is interesting, but it matches the rest of his outfit. And then his Superman symbol on the back, again, it looks a little not what we're used to seeing, but I think it's a little more accurate to the movie. Superman's body is really what sets it apart, though. Starting with his leg muscles and thighs, one thing I'm really glad at is they kept the true nature of Christopher Reeve. He wasn't a super muscular built guy by any means, like Henry or Brandon or any of the other people who have played him. But as you can see here, and there's great texture on the suit, and it's tight, and some stitching on the side, and even some folds near the knees, but you can still see the muscle definition. And then his underwear, very accurate to the movie, looks really good. A little bit different coloring than the boots and the cape, small variation, and that classic yellow belt with the belt loops. And then again, his torso, very similar to his thighs, a lot of cool stuff going on. And the Superman emblem looks a tiny bit big, but again, it's very similar to what was in the movie, and again, the same color that is on the shorts. And again, some cool folds with his arm movements on the sides of his body that are sculpted into the suit, and I really like that texture they used throughout. And then his arms, great job on the anatomy on his arms. Very true to Christopher Reeve. Muscular, but not over bulky by any means. And then great job on his hands. I think the skin color is a little dark, but they also show some veinage there with some cool skin colors and veination color, some dark reds and purples in there. And then looking at his portraits, first his closed mouth one here. Again, very Christopher Reeve accurate. The hair is fantastic. They even added a little bit of blue hinge in there, which I don't know if that was, it looks like it was intentional, but you can see all the different strands. And then looking at the side profile here, very Christopher Reeve for a statue. The skin color on this is just fantastic. It's a little bit darker than I'd hoped for, but it's probably more accurate to Christopher Reeve. Great job sculpting around the ears and the cheekbones. And then moving on to the front, you see his eyes. So they're facing up, which looks weird, but he's flying up. I think the nose is a tiny bit off, but the chin and the lips, and again, just great colors throughout. I love the paint job on this. And then moving to his goofy looking portrait, a lot of the very same similar characteristics. His nose, to be honest with you, I think looks a little bit better on this, but it might just be the expression on his face. A little bit different sculpt showing his dimples and some of the lines around his eyes. Great job on the eyebrows too. And then his classic to the white smile looks great. So very good job on both the portraits. very well job. So that's what I think of this statue. A few, minor issues. I don't know if this was the first commission by this guy, but obviously not the first sculpt by the sculptor. But I love the project. I think they did a really good job. Very excited about the piece. Going to keep him for a long, long time. And one of the other things, I just want to give a shout out. The decision to purchase this is one of the guys on Facebook I'm a big fan of, not only as a guy, but he has a YouTube channel, Statue Matinee. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. He reviews this piece. That's kind of what made me pull the trigger. And the review is awesome. It is super entertaining. I just gotta say, I wish he would review more stuff because I'm always waiting for it. He's one of my favorite reviewers, without a doubt. So please check him out if you haven't. Statue Matinee, and very cool dude. So. Let me know your thoughts on this. If you know more about the Christopher Reeve DC stuff than I do, please enlighten me. Please enlighten the other guys and just make a comment. Lastly, if you haven't subscribed, please hit subscribe. Please hit that bell. Please give me a like, and please leave a comment about whatever the hell you want. So, really appreciate you guys watching. Till next time, take care.